Hi everyone, it's James. I run the MLR Stats social media thing, and I'm trying something a little bit different today. May well be the first time some of you have seen my face. This is not my forte, sitting here and talking to a camera, so apologies in advance. I want to talk about my first impressions and my thoughts about the announcement today from MLR, USA Rugby and World Rugby about the addition of a 12th team for the 2024 MLR season, Anthem Rugby Carolinas. So, I'll start with the facts, which are Anthem RC, as they are known, are joining this season, 2024, which, for those paying attention, is 6 weeks away tomorrow. So, that's cutting it pretty fine. I'm sure a lot of work has gone on behind the scenes, and we already know lots of stuff has happened. We knew this was coming for a couple of weeks. We've known there's been an expansion draft for it. Don't know the roster yet, but I'm sure that'll come out in the next few days. First things first, the name Anthem RC. Not Rugby Club, but Rugby Carolina. Anthem as a name is fine. It doesn't really do anything for me. It's not amazing. It's not terrible. Maybe it does more for an American audience. The Star Spangled Banner is supposed to be an American team full of American players. Maybe it works in that regard. But I'm British, I live in Canada, doesn't really do anything for me. Next, the logos. We have a few variations on two different types of logos. First of all, Anthem Rugby Carolina. Hopefully it'll be on the screen somewhere, maybe. It looks like a baseball logo. It looks like a baseball team logo. Even the little swoop from the A underneath it my first thought was a baseball bat. Second logos, which is just kind of a very different styled A, capital A, which means we have another A team. We had the Arrows. We had ATL. We have Rugby LA. They all have A's. This logo is much better. I like the style of this. I like the cross is a shooting star, a rising star. It's supposed to be the idea. They got a metaphor in. They are essentially an evolution of the USA Hawks pathway team that also were based in Charlotte and played in 2023, and I think also toured South America. Their aim was essentially to develop new, young US talent, which seems to be also the mantra behind Anthem RC. Obviously, with the addition of Anthem for 2024, we get a new schedule. The schedule that was released just before the holidays, ignore it. That's now obsolete. I believe the new schedule is already up on the MLR website. I think teams are releasing their updated schedules, and I will be working on a couple of posts that need to be redone because the schedule's changed. What that means is that unless you're very much in the know for MLR, such as me, which I log on to MLR.com every day, I'm always on social media accounts related to MLR, etc., you will have known this is happening. If you're a casual fan, say you joined in 2023, you found a team you liked, hopefully it survived, and you're looking at what's going to happen for 2024. You might have based stuff off that old schedule. Now that's changed. Hopefully you saw it. You're not going to know what's going on. You're going to think you've come into this league which teams are dropping out, teams are joining, schedules are changing at the drop of a hat. It's really kind of alienating new fans in that regard. And on the fan experience, I really hope not many people booked travel to away games for the old schedule. I doubt MLR are going to refund any of that. I really hope if you have booked travel, you can change it, because that's also alienating some of your diehard fans that have booked travel based on an old schedule which doesn't exist to games that may also no longer exist. On a similar point, players. Pre-season camps are starting around the league. Players are traveling from all over the world to their pre-season camps. I know that Anthem RC is supposed to be predominantly made up of US talent, so the majority of the roster is already going to be in the US, but it will be supplemented with internationals. Can you imagine the players that are traveling to preseason camps thinking they're going to be playing for Seattle, San Diego, LA, only to find out days before they need to travel, or even after they've already landed, they're actually going to be playing in Charlotte? And that's absolutely not to take anything away from the city of Charlotte. I've never been, but I'm sure if you just, relocated your life to the West Coast only to find out that you're actually going to be playing on the East Coast, it's annoying. I wouldn't be too pleased. I'm hoping that a lot of the younger US talents, which are supposed to be making up the core of this team, are not too bothered where they're playing as long as they're playing professional rugby. That's fine. But you're really alienating some of the players, and I'm sure the union's going to be saying something about that. Are MLR covering relocation fees? Are they covering travel fees? You know, there's still a lot of questions up in the air regarding the player experience and in springing up a new team with 6 weeks to go to the season starts. And now to speak to some of the positives for this, because believe it or not, despite the last 5 minutes, I'm actually a supporter of this. First off, the timeline. Yes, it's short notice. Yes, it's last minute. I don't think MLR would have released a schedule at the end of last year if they thought there was a possibility that another team would join. I think that World Rugby kind of pushed MLR into this, and that's why the timeline is so short. Remember when we got Miami? They were announced during the 2023 season for 2024. If Anthem RC were announced now for 2025, no one would bat an eyelid. It would be all positives. But World Rugby, I think, have kind of pushed MLR into this. That's why we're getting kind of last-minute stuff. And credit to MLR, they've done a good job in the time they've been given. You know, we've got the team names, we've got a venue, we've got logos, we've probably going to hear a roster soon, a jersey soon, I hope. But if I was correct, and it's entirely speculation, they've done a good job with the time they've been given, which is not a lot. If you're a rugby fan in the Charlotte area or in the Carolinas, this is fantastic. You've got a professional rugby team. Take it from someone who used to have a professional rugby team. Absolutely make the most of it. It's fantastic. Charlotte seems like quite a rugby hotbed. I'm hoping that the fans will show up and support this team. It's amazing. It's the easiest win in the world is there's another market of rugby fans that get a professional team. We're also back to 12 teams in MLR. It's a nice round number. We're back to the conference system, 6 and 6. Perfect. I thought that worked really, really well last season and the last few seasons. It also makes scheduling easier. We now have a 12-team schedule again. Every team will play every other team in their conference home and away, which makes up 10 games. Every team will play every team from the other conference once, home or away. 16-game regular season. Easy. Anthem RC is clearly taking influence from the more nationalistic approach, for want of a better word, of Super Rugby Americas and the Rugby Europe Super Cup, where you have teams which are predominantly made up of international rosters facing each other at a club level, at a team level. Uruguay has Peñarol, Paraguay has Yacare, Brazil has the Cobras, Georgia has Black Lion, Belgium have the Devils. It's following that kind of model. And that has worked well for other competitions in the world, for other teams, for other nations. We saw Chile qualify for the first ever World Cup. I don't think that would have happened nearly as quickly without the inclusion of a team in Super Rugby Americas. It is not a short-term project. It is building towards 2031. There are 7 years until 2031, and there is a World Cup in the middle of that. 2027 will be the litmus test for this team. If the USA don't qualify for that, we'll ask all kinds of questions. But assuming they do, this will be the benchmark. Is this working? Is this experiment with Anthem RC working? We'll find out. And that also gives USA the platform they need for the next World Cup cycle into 2031, the first home Rugby World Cup. And 2031, like I said, 7 years away. If you get young, promising US talent playing professional rugby week in, week out now, by the time 2031 comes around, they are going to have 7 years at least professional rugby experience under their belts. Even by 2027, you're going to have an entire World Cup cycle of trained professional rugby players that have been playing for nearly half a decade. To have young players and a young US-led team in MLR playing professional rugby against the best teams on the continent, there is no downside to that. The longer the experiment runs, the more productive it's going to be, the better it's going to be. Yes, the timeline's not ideal. Yes, it's very rushed. Yes, it's very last minute. Yes, it's another crazy turn in this ridiculous off-season we've had. But this is a good thing. This is an amazing thing for USA Rugby. It's fantastic if you're a USA Rugby fan. You should be excited about this. I am, and I'm a Canadian rugby fan. The potential for this is fantastic. And I encourage you that despite the disadvantages, despite the short-term worry, the panic, the uncertainty, get behind this team. Get behind young, promising US rugby talent and support players which one day could represent the country at a Rugby World Cup. To wrap things up here, it's short-term pain for long-term gain, and I think it's a great thing. I think it's an amazing thing for if you're an MLR fan. It's an amazing thing if you're a USA Rugby fan. Welcome to the league. Anthem Rugby Carolina. I can't wait to see you take the field.